Most people think that you need to buy property to make money in real estate. That is complete bullshit, and I'm gonna prove it in this video. I'm Jordan Pham. I started my Airbnb business at 20 years old in Australia, and today I manage over 30 properties, generating anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 in profit every single month. And no, I don't own a single one of them. And guess what? I barely lift a finger to manage these properties. In fact, half of my properties I haven't even seen in over a year. And the ones that I have been to, I went there either for fun or just to chill. And that is the craziest thing about this business model. If you build it right and implement the right systems, you have tangible properties that you actually have access to without the obligation to actually go there. Now stick to the end because I'm going to reveal the strategies I use to build my business so that you can too. And you never know, this might be the most valuable video that you ever end up coming across because the business model might change your life just like it did with mine. So not many people are aware of the loophole in the real estate market that lets you build this kind of cash flow with 20 times less than what it would actually take to buy a property. In fact, I only started with $15,000 and I did not invest anything else into my business. Okay, let me explain. So the business model is called rental arbitrage or Airbnb arbitrage, whatever you want to call it. Essentially, you are renting the property on a standard long-term lease agreement from an owner and with their permission, putting it on short-term rental platforms. But why does it work? Simple. If you go on any long-term rental marketplace such as realestate.com if you are in Australia and compare the prices to Airbnb prices, you can see for yourself the massive difference. For instance, in Melbourne where I live, a standard 2-bedroom apartment in the city might cost you $700 a week. While on Airbnb, this might go for $250, even $350 a night. Now, of course, there are other expenses such as cleaning, platform fees, maintenance, but overall, you still end up with a pretty decent return on investment. Okay, so enough yapping about how good this business is and how it works. How do you actually do it? So I came up with the 5 pillars of Airbnb arbitrage and I like to call it the rental flip formula. And if you implement all of these pillars correctly, I promise you, you'll be able to build a 10K a month business in 60 days and have it making money while you sleep. Pillar 1, property acquisition. The first pillar of the rental flip formula is of course acquiring your first property. Now this is probably the biggest hurdle of the business and where most people just give up. Because you have no properties, you have no credibility and therefore no leverage. However, there are definitely strategies around this. But first, how do you actually determine a profitable property? Okay, so the first step is to go on AirDNA. This is basically a software that scrapes all the data from all listings and their rates and occupancy to determine the rental revenue of that listing. So what I will do is zoom into a specific location that you want to focus on. So right now I'm looking at South Bank in Melbourne, Australia, and you want to find comparable listings with a decent amount of reviews. Generally 20 plus reviews is a healthy property. And then you want to put their average daily rate and occupancy into a spreadsheet and average out the numbers for at least 5 comparable properties. Okay, so now you have your average daily rate and your average occupancy for your Airbnb. And when you multiply these two together, you of course get your average rental revenue per day. This is now when you find the daily rate for your long-term rental property. So if you're in Australia, go to realestate.com and zoom into the same location on the map view and find a property and their weekly rent. Divide this number by 7 and now you have your average daily rental obligation to the owner. Now you want to divide the average rental revenue per day by the daily rent in order to work out the revenue efficiency ratio. And generally we want to aim for this ratio to be at least 2x to indicate that it is a worthwhile and profitable investment. Okay, so now that you have a property that you think is worthwhile acquiring, call the agent or landlord directly and ask them, hey, I run a short stay company specializing in premium short-term accommodation and we were interested in your property. Have you considered renting out to a short stay operator? Now they'll usually hit you with common objections. Here's how to handle them. Airbnb guests will throw parties and damage the place. I totally understand your concern. We have strict guest verification and vetting procedures in place, and every guest must submit government issued ID, pass background checks, meet criteria based on their Airbnb profile, reviews, and history. And if they do end up damaging the place, we're fully insured and covered through our hosting platform. Plus, we take a security deposit and have a dedicated support team that handles all guest issues instantly. I prefer long-term tenants. That's totally fair. Most landlords do. But the key difference here is we're not casual guests coming and going with no structure. We're actually the ideal long-term tenant. We sign a standard long-term lease, guarantee rent on time every single month, and we treat the property like a business asset, not a crash pad. You get the same security and consistency that you get with a regular tenant, but with professional cleaning every few days and maintenance covered up to $300. And because this is a business for us, if the property is performing well, we're very likely to renew, meaning that you avoid tenant turnover, vacancy, and the hassle of finding new renters year after year. Pillar 2, furnishing. Now that you have your first property, it's time to set it up. And no, You don't need to spend $20,000 or hire an interior designer. Here are 3 core principles to furnishing. The space needs to be functional, the space needs to be durable, and last but definitely not least, the space needs to be aesthetically pleasing. It needs to be functional. Every item in the space should serve a purpose. Your guests are living out of suitcases and therefore they need some convenience. Here are some examples you can implement into your listings for maximum functionality. A dedicated workspace, bedside table lamps, floor lamps, blackout blinds, power outlets on both sides of the bed, fast Wi-Fi, and all kitchen appliances including toaster, kettle, microwave, and even a coffee machine. You're designing the space for usability. The faster a guest can settle in, the better their review will be. It needs to be durable and low maintenance. Everything in the apartment should be easy to clean, durable, and replaceable. No fragile decor, and definitely no furniture that stains easily. I've seen inexperienced hosts use that white boucle material that looks good for the first month, and it ends up looking like shit after 5 guests use it. Use materials that hold up against spills, scratches, and constant use. Remember, this property is a business asset that needs to hold up under pressure. And finally, it needs to be aesthetically pleasing. People are naturally attracted to things that look good. It's instant. Before they read your reviews, before they check your amenities, or even compare your price, they're judging your photos. Design the space like something you'll see on Pinterest. Use neutral base tones with 1 to 2 accent colors. Add texture with rugs, throw blankets, and cushions. And chuck in a few fake plants and framed prints to bring life to the space. Pillar 3 is marketing. This is where 99% of beginner hosts fall flat. They get a property, spend all this money furnishing it, and then completely fumble the bag when it comes to the listing. Let's get this straight. Your photos are your storefront and your title is your hook. If you don't grab attention, you're invisible. So here are some core principles of marketing on Airbnb. Get professional photography. Don't DIY this on your iPhone. Hire someone who knows lighting, knows the angles, and knows how to make a shoebox look like a penthouse. Your listing photos will make or break your bookings. So don't be cheap here. Optimize your title and photo order. Your title should hit keywords like modern, spacious, balcony, parking, pool, etc. You're not writing to describe the place, you're writing to sell the place. And your first 5 photos need to tell a story and capture the best of the space. Lead with the living area, then the bedroom, then the balcony, then the pool. In that order. Don't open with a hallway shot or a close-up of a kettle in the kitchen. No one gives a shit about that. Use Price Labs or Wheelhouse for dynamic pricing. Most noob hosts set one static price and call it a day. Big mistake. Your pricing needs to move with demand. Weekends, public holidays, events, all of it. That's how you squeeze every last dollar out of the calendar without lifting a finger. Set your minimum stay to 2 nights. I don't care what anyone says, 1 night bookings are almost always the dodgiest guests. They don't care about the place, and that's where parties, smoking, and the nonsense comes in. Pillar 4, automation. Now that your place is furnished and your listing is live, it's time to do what smart operators do. Remove yourself from the day-to-day. Because if you're messaging guests, sending them the check-in instructions, cleaning yourself, and getting woken up at 2 a.m. because some dumbass locked themselves out of a property, congratulations. You didn't build a business, you built yourself a job. Here's how to automate like a pro. Set up automated messages. Here are the 5 core message templates that you should schedule. Booking confirmation. Instantly thank them for booking and set the tone about key information they need for their stay. Pre-check-in. Deliver the check-in instructions, the address, and the check-in code so that they feel fully prepared. Post-check-in. This is just a quick follow-up to make sure everything is smooth. This alone reduces 90% of negative reviews. Pre-checkout. This is a friendly reminder of the checkout time and the key return instructions. This avoids last-minute issues. And finally, after checkout. Thank them for staying and ask for a 5-star review. If you crush the stay experience, most will leave one. Hire a cleaner. Use Turno, Facebook groups, local businesses, or Airtasker to find a reliable short-term rental cleaner. Just make sure that they have some experience with Airbnb turnovers because it's a completely different game from regular residential cleaning. Once you've found someone solid, give them a detailed checklist so every clean is consistent and nothing gets missed. Number 3, hire a virtual assistant. Now this applies once you're managing more than 3 to 5 properties, but you need a VA. Or you'll burn out trying to do everything yourself. Your virtual assistant can handle guest communications, calendar management, maintenance coordination, and cleaning schedules. You can usually find quality VAs on platforms like Upwork, usually for $5 to $8 an hour. Pillar 5, expansion. This is where things get fun. Once your first unit is live, profitable, and systemized, your only job now is to copy and paste the model. You don't need to reinvent anything. The blueprint is already built. The goal now is scale. Here's how to expand fast and smart. Firstly, reinvest the cash flow. Don't go blow your first $3,000 on a new watch. Take the profit from property 1 and use it to fund property 2. Then 3, then 4, then 5. I scaled to over 30 units in under 2 years by stacking the cash flow and moving fast. Speed compounds. Second, leverage your track record. Every successful listing becomes proof of concept. Now when you speak to landlords or agents, you can say, we already manage X number of short-term rentals in the area. Here are our results. That turns cold leads into warm conversations. Your credibility scales with your portfolio. Finally, focus on volume or value. You can scale horizontally by adding more units, or vertically by taking bigger, higher revenue properties. And that's it. If you followed the 5 pillars of the rental flip formula, you now have a profitable, cash flowing Airbnb business without owning a single property. Now, obviously this was just a basic overview. There's way more to cover, like how to negotiate leases, furnish faster and more efficiently, and different softwares that help streamline your processes and massively increase your productivity. But this gives you the full framework. If you're ready to go a little deeper, I put together a free training that shows exactly how I got my first 2 properties and scaled to over 30 across Melbourne. The link's in the description for that one, so go watch that next. And if you got any value from this at all, make sure to subscribe for more content related to Airbnb and short-term rentals.